there.
We've lost the YouTube. I think just look to pause the meeting while they try and reconnect it.
Okay, so apparently we've lost the YouTube feed, so we will pause briefly.
You mean we're not on air?
No, but they've lost the YouTube feed. Thank you. Yeah, it will take 20 seconds.
Okay, hopefully we're back online. So just pause briefly while we got back online. So apologies for anyone who was watching, and you haven't really missed much because we did stop. So I was just explaining that when we did the destination management plan, I did chair that group, and we really had a focus on what new activities we might be able to encourage around the district. And yeah, we didn't pay enough attention, I think, to the existing ones, and with the Geo Park getting its UNESCO accreditation, there's been an important step forward for that. So making sure that we do reflect that in the plan, and also the importance of Alps to Ocean to the part of the district that goes through from the top of our district right through to Oamaru. So the intention is to just beef up some of the information on that, and make sure that we are reflecting the true situation on those ones. And obviously looking forward to the time when we can get the coastal cycle trail up and running that runs from Oamaru down to Palmerston and ultimately Dunedin. We won't go too much into that detail at the moment. So councillors, do you have any questions or comments on the plan at the moment? Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, Mika, just look, there's one matter of well, I'm querying whether it is a mistake or whether I've misread it. On page 71 of the agenda, or page 3 of the plan, there's a whole series of opportunities, 1.3, and there's a reference, bullet point number 2 says accommodation projects require the largest share of capital investment, totaling over half, 47 million. And then a total of 77 million is estimated to be required to activate all the projects. But if you then go down and look at the estimated capex by project type with the coloured graphics, the 47 million is actually attributed to attraction and experiences, and accommodation is only identified as costing 21.2 million. So it seems to me one of those must be wrong. And if the graph's right, then it should say attraction projects, however, require. But if the text is right, then the graphic should be changed, I think.
Okay. We'll look into that and check what's accurate, and make the change if that's just to make sure it does reflect the reality.
I suppose I have 2 more questions, if I may, with your permission. Question 1 would be how reliant are we going to be, or how rigidly are we going to adhere to the top 10 projects? Because I have some concern about that ranking. It strikes me that 8 million for houseboats on Lake Benmore is number 2 or 3, in preference to upgrades to the penguin colony and so forth, is unwise and unaffordable. The other question is perhaps to Alex. There's a whole lot of references in this document to what Tourism Waitaki are going to do and how they're going to implement things and how they'll drive the rollout of the strategy at LXZ. We probably do need to modify this document now and explain how the new Economic Development Board will do this and formalise in some way its tourism role and articulate it in this document. Do you think that's a reasonable change or development that needs to be made?
I'll just respond to the first one first. So essentially we've used tourism experts to actually help us develop this. The list and its prioritisation isn't ours as such. We've agreed that they're all worthy projects, and things like the houseboat project, that's not going to be council that does that. But if someone decides that's a good project, we'd be absolutely supportive of them getting on and doing it, and work with them and perhaps more of a spirit of partnership than we might otherwise. So it's really take it as it is, and don't see it as an action plan for council. Take it as an action plan for the district overall. Mr. Parmley, on the second matter.
So on the second matter, I think it's a bit premature to update it at this stage, in that council hasn't agreed to set up an EDA, development board as you set out, or disestablished Tourism Waitaki yet. So I think we need to get through that process first, rather than changing the document ahead of any council decision on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Holding.
I think I did sit in the process earlier, some of the earlier meetings with stakeholders, and when this was being developed, and it was a good process. But I was saying, if you take it as not being a council document, it's a list of investments is public here. I'm just saying, how assured are we that is that not public money? I mean, like they're quite low return, 1 to 3%. Is that public investment meaning council?
Which page are you referring to?
Page 66. Frame house, furnace, pass, eco house, erected bobbles.
So it's not assumed that it'll all be council when it's referring to public, which is why it's used that wider term. And we know the government is looking at how, having asked for destination management plans for each area, and how it now supports the funding of the delivery of the destination management plans. So I would hope that we'd see some government resources going into that as well.
Councillor McCone.
Yeah, look, I think we've got to encourage visitors to the district. I think that's a plus, but I also think we've got to get the trunk sorted out before we go to the branches. And to me, a lot of this stuff is for private enterprise. We need to be the ones in the middle that are facilitating that path and make it easy for these guys to set up. We want the whole district to benefit, and I think if we can make that a benefit as opposed to start picking off some of these things that are here, I don't think it's any benefit to the whole district. It's a benefit to those that are involved with it.
Don't disagree too much at all with that. So yes, it's definitely, as we've said, there's a lot of this is to assist overall with a vision for tourism and how Waitaki can work more closely with the visitor market and make sure we get as much benefit as possible. And that also does go for as broadly as possible for that benefit to range from. Councillors, any other comments? Someone happy to move the recommendation? Councillor Holding, move that, and seconded Councillor Linwood, thank you. Any further comments? Councillor McCain.
So under what's been recommended, most of the funding will come from the private enterprise and we're assisting. Is that how it reads?
Yeah, it's I mean, this is a guide, at the moment for Tourism Waitaki and Council as to what things have been identified and things that we can maybe facilitate and so on. Some things we'll have to do. It's like building that trunk that you talked about, or growing that trunk, and then allowing others to add the branches. It's a bit like when we working with Mackenzie District Council and DOC and others, other funders and so on to build out West Ocean, and then it's the people who then add on the employment opportunities that sit alongside that around accommodation and hospitality and tour guiding and all the rest of it. So it's it's pretty much the intention is that a lot of this will be driven by the private sector, and they might think some of the ideas are too expensive or don't, it's going to take someone who's willing to take on the risk of doing a particular development. Anything else? Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, I suppose, look, what one of the other things that does come through towards the end of it, talking about how the plan is going to be implemented from page 108 onwards of the agenda, it's how do we get there? And page 109 looks specifically at the geopark, which is, I suppose, our challenge and our opportunity. And I am concerned that there's so little reference in there. Pretty much all of the onus for implementing that or pursuing those initiatives seems to sit with us. And I really would like to see this plan incorporate some clearer signal that we are going to actively go and look for government and other external funding sources, because there's an awful lot of if you look at page 109 onwards and all the geopark initiatives that are identified there, there's a big bill waiting to be paid, and it looks as though most of it's going to sit with us at the moment, which gives me some apprehension.
Yeah, I want to be clear, it doesn't quantify what the commitment is from council on any of those things. It mentions council as one of the players in it, and just as we've been one of the players in the Alps to Ocean, it's something akin to that, but it doesn't say how much we might be involved, and that's really for future councils to decide through the use of the annual plan and long-term plan as to what commitment the future councils want to make on that particular one. The Geopark Trust itself will be tasked with getting out and doing a whole lot of fundraising and finding grants and donations from the community and beyond. And hopefully, given we are Australia's first UNESCO Global Geopark, that hopefully central government will see the merit in actually investing in this particular opportunity as well.
Just to add to that, I wanted to give assurance that, we are looking at external funding with partners. So, the example of the Discovery Hub, we took a partnership approach to that. So partners have put in some money and the government has put in some money into a feasibility of that, with a view then to, depending on the results of that, looking to secure further government funding to help with that project. And, it's not just the council that's putting money into that feasibility.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye. And those against, that's carried. We'll now basically finish the public part of the agenda. We've got a couple of sets of minutes in public excluded. We've got a discussion on an application to the Heritage Fund and a discussion on the Sports and Events Centre, looking at a preferred construction partner. So someone's happy for us to move into public excluded. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Halilele. Seconded, Councillor Holding. Those in favour, please say aye. And against, that's carried. We have a brief pause while we move into PE. Thank you. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined us online.